Hey everyone, this is Ellie Mae with Swift Creek Customs, and in today's video I'm going to share with you some tips for cutting stencil material with your Siser Juliet or Romeo. We recently had some questions on cutting stencils, and I was creating a class with some designs, so I thought I would record the whole thing and share with you. This is 7mm stencil material, and the first thing you want to do is you want to do your test cuts. Test cuts are one of the most important parts of the process. You want to make sure that you have your blade depth set properly and that you have enough force to get through your materials. This is going to also change as you cut more and more. So here's a look at the design in the Siser Leonardo Design Studio software. The first one I'm showing you is a design I created as a card background. I'm going to pull the background piece out of this design and I'm going to use it as my stencil. And then I'm going to tell the machine exactly where I want it to start cutting on my material. I have my material placed securely on my cutting mat, or so I thought, and I'm just telling it here where to begin cutting. Now I'm going to use the cutter's settings because that's just what I have it set up here. I first started that and then I decided to change that, and I'm going to send this from the Siser software. So I unchecked cutter settings and selected the cutting tool, and then I'm going to go in and I'm going to adjust the settings. Now first I went back to and changed it to cut tool. It didn't really matter at this point. I was just flip-flopping back and forth. But I'm going to then adjust my force to what I test cut. Now keep in mind your test cuts, I do recommend one design at a time when you're cutting a thicker material like stencil material, because it is going to dull the blade at a faster rate. I sent it through the software because I wanted it to cut 2 passes. That's why I wanted it to do this, and I wanted to do it consecutively. I did already test this, so I wanted it to advance to the end of the cutter after I did it. Here's a look at the first design that I sent for the cut, and my material was not quite stuck down. So it lifted and one piece was just not cut. So I just started again and I did it again. You do need a really sticky mat to hold the materials in place while the blade is cutting. The second design cut well, so I'm just removing that. There's a look at the completed stencil. This is again 7mm stencil material. I do think Siser machines can handle thicker than that too. This is showing a creation of your own stencils in the Siser Leonardo Design Studio software. You can create all kinds of objects and shapes for your stencils. I pulled in an image from the Leonardo Design Studio library to start with, and then I'm adjusting it. And I'm adjusting this to use up the rest of the stencil material. That's why I have such a small stencil. When you are creating your stencils, you want to keep in mind the final product that, or what you're going to be using it for. You do want to give yourself some room if you're using things like liquid medias like stencil butters or inks or things like that. If you don't have enough space on your edges, you're going to have to tape those off when you go to use your materials. Now, designing in the Leonardo Design Studio software or any other program is a complete personal preference. You can see here, I'm keeping this in here. As you can see my process I'm going through. I'm just creating this design based off of the starting point from the Siser library design. And I'm arranging the files, the shapes in there, depending on how I want this to look. Everybody's stencil is going to look different. Everybody's design is going to look different. That's the best part about this, is you have so many options that you can utilize within the software and just changing it up. Now, once you have finally decided on your placement for your design, make sure to make a copy, save your file. You can always come back and redo it, or you can recreate it. You can move things around, save your files, and then make sure to back up your files. I selected the original, I right-clicked, and I chose Combine Paths. That's going to punch those stars out of the background. This way I am guaranteed that I know those stars are going to stay attached no matter what I choose when I go to send this. So it's all one design when I go to send it. And then you want to make sure that as you cut, the more you cut, you may need to increase those settings for your blade. And this is why I recommend cutting one stencil design at a time rather than a full sheet, because your blade may dull as you are cutting that. So here's a quick look at the cutting of that. I had a little bit of space. That's why I created the design the way I did. And you can see I had a little bit of an issue with it pulling away from the stencil material. So next time, you can see on the bottom, there's a little bit of a ridges there. It wasn't smooth. So my next cut, I'm going to increase the force and I'm going to see what happens, which the stencil material did not stick to my cutting mat, and I need to get a stickier mat for this. I had it a little bit too close to the edge, so it caught. Here's another look at a design that I created using a Leonardo Design Studio library file. Get into the software, just start playing. You don't have to create your own designs. Use a design from the library and just start playing around with it. There are many different designs in there that can be used for stencil designs. This is a close-up photo of an image of when your blade starts to dull. This is kind of what you're going to start to see, and your pieces aren't going to fall out easily. So just make sure to do your test cuts and send one design at a time for your stencils. Again, 7 mil. This was easily cut with the force of 80 to 85, and I just had to increase that as I went. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and have a great day.